The Kentucky Wildcats had to go out there and earn a gutsy win over the Duke Blue Devils, and they managed to pull it out in the end.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on tonight's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be recapping Kentucky basketball's 77-72 win over the Duke Blue Devils. An absolute thriller, one of the best college basketball games that I have had the pleasure of watching. I am still in shock as we go live here. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in live. If you're listening to the postcast on podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. Going to be recapping what happened in this game. Just a gutsy, and I mean gutsy performance from the Cats tonight. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you are watching live on YouTube right now, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the show. And if you are listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribe there as well, wherever you are tuned in today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, you can create an account, and you can use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase of tickets to any event, but a college basketball game coming up. I'm sure you guys would love to use Game Time for that. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. 77-72 was the final score. I am so proud of the way that this team fought against an extremely stacked Duke team. They went out in the second half and dominated on defense. Outscored Duke 26-40 in the second half to get this 5-point win. Shut the team down on defense, and that was my concern heading into this game. Could Kentucky do enough on defense against Cooper Flagg and the Blue Devils to win this one? They were struggling in the first half, keeping Duke out of the paint. They were struggling to keep them off the foul line, albeit some shenanigans from the officiating crew on both sides, I might add. This was amazing. You went out into the transfer portal. Mark Pope, you went out into the transfer portal, and you were looking for players with experience. You got a roster full of kids that are extremely versatile in a variety of ways. You struggle a little bit when it comes to creating an isolation, but it did not matter because your defense showed up. You got kids that play with a lot of heart, with a lot of energy, with a lot of want to, and that's what won this game tonight. It was coaching and it was want to. I am so proud of the way that kids like Lamont Butler, Otega Owe, Andrew Carr, Mari Williams, Kobe Brea, Brandon Garrison, Kirk Carissa, everybody played a part in this win. Absolutely massive for the Cats. You have now picked up a signature win for your resume for the NCAA tournament later on in March in 2025. You have picked up a signature win for Mark Pope early on in his career. This signifies to anybody out there that's thinking about going to a blue blood school, if you're a 5-star prospect, if you're a 4-star prospect, if you're a kid that is capable at playing at the high at as high of a level as you saw tonight, you're going to take a look at what Mark Pope and Kentucky are doing. The way that they execute what Mark Pope wants to run is beautiful. I don't know if you saw it. That out-of-bounds play at the end of the game, that is how you draw things up. That is how you draw things up. If you are a coach, that is how you manage the game and close it out, by drawing up a play like that where you go long and you throw it over the top to Lamont Butler. He could have honestly gone for a layup while he was getting fouled, an intentional foul that essentially iced the game. That is how you do it. Kentucky has not been capable of getting even close to performing like that late in games as of the last decade. This was coaching and want to. I cannot say it enough. I am so proud of the way that these kids continued to fight every single time that Duke was starting to potentially pull away, getting up by 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. Kentucky was able to close the gap, and they were able to keep it competitive. They would not go away, and at the very end, they found a way to pull it out. Was it perfect? No. Were either team perfect tonight? No, but I am so impressed with the way that Kentucky stepped up against an athletic, skilled, talented Duke roster. Cooper Flagg is a first-round pick. Con Knippel is a first-round pick. Malawach is a first-round pick at some point in the future. This is a loaded Duke team. Credit to John Shire. Credit to Duke, credit to their coaching staff. They have got these kids playing well. They could not get it done in the end tonight against Kentucky's squad. So impressed with the way that these guys played. I am so impressed. I'm still kind of in shock. And again, I just want to thank you guys. I just looked over. It's like 470 of you here in this game tonight, or here in this recap here tonight. If you've not subscribed to the show, I would love to have you here as we get closer to, or as we wade deeper into the schedule, I should say. We love to break things down here on Locked On Kentucky, go deep into what offensively Kentucky wants to do. We like to look at analytics. Speaking of that, we've got a KenPom update later on tonight. I thought that Duke would be able to do too much in the paint against Kentucky. That's what I thought heading into this game. They just have so much size and physicality and athleticism. I didn't think Kentucky was going to be able to keep up defensively. Offensively, I thought they had a chance. And in the first half, it looked like things were trending that way, right? In the first half, it looked like Kentucky was going to let up a ton of points in the paint, and they were just going to have to find ways to outscore Duke in the second half. And then they completely flipped the script. And I want to start here with a player that did not lead in scoring, did not lead in plus minus, didn't have a major game statistically relative to some of the other performers tonight. I want to shout out Brandon Garrison, the first player I want to get to here tonight. 8 points on 4 of 5 shooting. He had 4 rebounds. He had 2 assists. He had 2 blocks. He had a steal in 18 minutes of play. He played in that second half a crucial role in Kentucky getting back out in this game. He was an inch away from hitting a 3-pointer. He had an extremely deep 2 to get Kentucky rolling, to get them closer in this game. He had a couple of major stops on the defensive end. He had a layup in transition. He was doing everything to help Kentucky out in the second half of this game. Only 8 points and 4 rebounds, but you loved what you saw from Brandon Garrison in the effort tonight. I said it over and over this summer. A lot of you guys were saying the same thing as well. We're not talking enough about the former McDonald's All-American, and he showed up tonight against some big-time presences down low for the Duke Blue Devils, which, by the way, they got a 7'2" 5-star starting at their center spot, and the backup was one of the best players in the ACC at Syracuse a season ago in Malik Brown. Garrison and Williams stepped up tonight. Williams actually tied for the lead in plus-minus box score at plus 10. Despite shooting 3 of 12 from the floor. He did a little bit of everything for the Wildcats tonight. In the second half, look at the numbers here. You look at the numbers between the first half. In the first half of play, Duke was shooting 48.6% from the floor. They were shooting 25% from 3. In the second half, they went from shooting 48% to 29.4% in just 1 of 11 from 3. The adjustments that Mark Pope and the coaching staff made coming out of halftime, incredible. This is how you coach a team. This is how you coach a program. I loved the collective effort. It wasn't just one guy tonight, and that's going to be the theme here. That's going to be the theme. It wasn't just one player tonight. It was the entire roster, the entire rotation that got in that contributed. And of course, there were players that struggled. Of course, there were players that maybe didn't have the best night. They were just off. But again, just overall, a great victory for the Cats. We'll continue to talk about it here on Locked On Kentucky. Before we get to that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the place to go if you want to get tickets to college basketball games near you. And it's not just college basketball games. It's music, comedy, theater, concerts in your area. But guys, you know, there's nothing that beats the feel of a game like we saw tonight. If you were not in Atlanta tonight, I wasn't, in which I hate the fact that I wasn't. If you are not in Atlanta tonight, you're going to want to make sure that you're in Rupp or you're at some of these non-conference games for Kentucky, because they are going to put on a clinic for you. This is a great team to go and watch live. There's no better place to go than Game Time. They've got last-minute tickets. They've got all-in prices when you go to the app. Views from your seat. You can get a ticket immediately within a minute or so. You can get in, get out. I've loved using them for several years now, and you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets over at Game Time by downloading the Game Time app, creating an account, using code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, you can create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, that's LOCKEDON COLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, wrapping up, or continuing along here, rather, on this late Tuesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. I am really, really just stunned with just the borderline Herculean performance that Kentucky had in the second half. I don't think you guys probably do understand. Maybe you understand this better than I do. That's a Duke team that could win the national title, and Kentucky went out there and just outperformed them flat out in the second half. For all of the people that thought Kentucky's ceiling was somewhere in the second round or around a 20-win team, who knows? They could end up being that, but after tonight, that's not how I view this team. You get a win like this, the way that you did it, adjustments, clutching out, and utilizing your experience and your want to and your heart, that's going to win you tournament games. This team can win the national championship. I am fully convinced of that after the performance tonight. That is not hot take. That is not me trying to clickbait. I fully believe if you're able to do things like you did tonight, you are capable of winning the national championship. And this is a roster that was constructed in about a month. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, Mark Pope's the greatest coach of all time. Oh, Mark Pope's going to win a national championship every single season at Kentucky. But you start to see the vision. You start to see what Kentucky wants to do on offense and how they can execute, not perfectly, but they can execute. You start to see what they want to do on defense with the pieces that they have. Lamont Butler, Amari Williams, Otega Owe, guys playing really, really, really passionately on that end of the floor. And one of you guys just actually, I looked over, just pointed it out in the comments. And we'll go ahead and talk about this. The crazy part about this, and this is coming from Ito, the FND, in the chat, Jackson Robinson, didn't even score a point in this game. Kentucky won by 5. 0 of 4 from the floor, 0 of 3 from 3 in 13 minutes was Jackson Robinson. Robinson had 1 rebound, 1 turnover, 2 blocks, and a steal. +6 and +. Did not have a good first half, full stop. Like, it was bad. He looked like his confidence was not there. The shots that he were taking weren't falling. Excuse me, he did have 1 point. He went 1 of 3 from the foul line, I'm saying just now. He had 1 point. But he did not make a field goal. He struggled tonight. And in the second half, he went out there, and he played good defense. He played really solid defense at different points. He gave up some points to Flagg, but he created a couple turnovers, got a couple blocks. You need players like this, whenever they have off games, to rebound and to execute well in games to come. When you see this for Kentucky in the NCAA tournament, if they get there, and I hope that they do, I expect that they do, sometimes players like Robinson will have an off night. Some leaders on your team will just have an off night. But they will rebound, and you will see them play next game, and they'll go out there and execute. 77 points without arguably the best scorer on your roster making a shot. Made one free throw, 1 of 3 from the foul line. Let's talk about the leading scorer here, and Andrew Carr. And by the way, because there's so many of you here, and you guys are going crazy in the comments, I'll ask you guys, who is your MVP of this game? There are several options. I think there are several options. But let's start. Let you guys leave that in the comments, and I'll talk for a minute about Carr. 17 points on 5 of 8 shooting. He was 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. Hit his first 2 threes, and I was fired up, man. Watching the game, I was fired up. 5 of 6 from the charity stripe. In a night that Kentucky wasn't great from the charity stripe, at least in the first half. In the second half, they were 9 of 11. They closed this thing out like grown men do. 17 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 30 minutes of play. He filled up the stat sheet. This was such a valuable ad from Wake Forest. He does a little bit of everything. And what he ended up doing late in this second half, and again, credit to Mark Pope for the way that he executed with this. He put Carr at the 5 because you wanted more shot making towards the end of the game. Instead of going defensive minded and putting like Garrison or Williams out there, or possibly both in a weird world, you put your 4-man at the 5 and you said, let it ride. We're still going to try and get stops. And Carr got stops. He got a couple of stops there late in the game. Now he did, if I'm not mistaken, his one turnover of the game was at the very end. Lamont Butler made up for it. Man, Carr played so well tonight. He made shots. He got into the paint. He finished in the post. Absolutely love it. Let's see. Dawe. Some of you guys are saying Mark Pope is the MVP. Pope is the MVP. Pope. All of them are MVPs. Pope is the MVP. Carr played great. Ortega played great. Carr is my MVP. So it's looking like Carr, Dawe, and Mark Pope himself. And I just got to say, it's hard to disagree with saying that Mark Pope was the most valuable player in this game. Shout out, by the way, Mario Maitland of KSR. Whenever they did their predictions earlier today, they normally run down and they give an MVP of the game. Mario was the only person to put Pope. Only person to put Pope, saying like he will carry the load in this game, executing as a coach and winning this game for Kentucky. Obviously, he's not out there playing or dribbling the ball, but you get the point. Shout out Mario, because that is what happened tonight. If you're gonna pick an MVP, I think Mark Pope is a great selection. If you're picking a player, Carr and Dawe are probably where you're going. Probably so. What will we be ranked next week? John asks. That is a great question. We don't have a game until next Tuesday, so they're gonna have a little bit of time to kind of figure this out. We played Lipscomb on the 19th, and oh, that's a potential letdown spot there, because Lipscomb's not bad. They're not bad guys, and they shoot threes. Whew. Okay, we'll have a preview episode on that next Monday, but of course we'll be talking all about the Cats here over the course of this week. Someone said 12th, someone said 15th. Yeah, probably somewhere inside the top 15. Probably so. Okay. Let's wrap up the show. Let's talk about everybody's performance. Let's talk about how important the game, closing out the game was, and then Ortega Dawe. What a rebound at the very end of this one. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Just a second. Real quick, want to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. Guys, you can get ready to tackle the NFL and college basketball action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can get $5 and bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if they win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's all over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's wrap this up here. Kentucky basketball with a stunning victory against Duke. One of the best second-half performances I have seen in my life. Kentucky clutching this thing out. I don't know if I've seen a more clutch performance from a team ever. And that may be over dramatic, but the way that they shut down, I reiterate this, guys, multiple, legitimate NBA players. Flagg is special, and they were able to get him at the very end of the game, despite him putting up solid counting stats. They were able to get him at the end of the game to choke. A pair of turnovers to close it out. One where Lamont got the swipe. One where a Williams got him in the corner. Flagg falls down. Ball goes out of bounds. 26 points, 12 rebounds, less than 50% shooting from the floor. 1 of 5 from 3. Inefficient, but the volume got him there. And actually was one of the worst players on the team in plus-minus on box. Actually, second worst in -8. Tyrese Proctor was -9. You made him fold at the very end of the game. It's impressive. It is impressive. Let's talk about Ortega closing out with that rebound, actually, over Cooper Flagg. 3 different moments where Flagg failed to execute at the end of the game. Dawe, 15 points, 4 of 10 shooting. He was 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. Huge threes at different points. 6 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, and 2 steals. Did everything, man. Just got up. Got up for that rebound. Tapped it to himself. Got fouled. That was the end of the game. He was 5 of 6 from the line as well. Grown men clutching it out with points where you get them. Hey, they're free in the second half. Kentucky, 81.8% from the charity stripe in the second half, 71% as a whole. And they shot poorly from the foul line in the first half, just 8 of 13. Able to get that number up to 71% at the end of the game. Ortega Dawe, Andrew Carr, 2 big-time players, 2-way players, we will call them. They are not just offensively strong, 2-way players that played solid defense tonight. Amari Williams, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, just 1 turnover after turning the ball over quite a bit over these first couple of games. 2 blocks, only 3 of 12 from the floor. Struggled with some shot selection, but he was 4 of 5 from the line. He got his rebounds, and he played well enough especially alongside Brandon Garrison. If you combine those 2 stats at the 5 spot, that's solid. Kobe Brea, playing efficiently, not volume, but playing efficiently, stepping up. 8 points, 2 of 4 from the 3 of 5 from the floor, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a block. He played some defense in the second half, man. Almanor, 1 of 2 from 3, got his 3 points. Kerr Kriisa, 2 of 9. He was chucking at a couple different spots. And everybody said, no assists and no turnovers, by the way. Everybody said heading into this, man, he's going to make some bad passes. He's gonna do some bad things with the ball, trying to get it to other players. It was just the shot selection tonight. Of course, he was also kind of given a couple of bombs late in shot clocks, I would also say, where Carr and then I can't remember who else it was, they could have shot the ball, and yet they gave it up to Kriisa, and he ended up taking just a deep 3 at the end of a shot clock. Kerr, not the best performance tonight. Lowest on the team in plus-minus. Just not his night, but I think that he is capable of playing better than that. Lamont, 9 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. Really solid defensively at different points in this game. You have to be happy with the way that this entire team played. You have to be happy with the way that this entire team played. And then to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen, you go and look on KenPom. Kentucky started the season ranked 42nd. It's the lowest they've ever been ranked to start a KenPom season. Pause for water. Lowest they've ever been ranked. They are now up to 20 in the KenPom rankings. Defense went from 54th to 33rd after that game against Duke. 17th nationally in offense, 24th nationally in adjusted tempo. They spread the ball around well. They shoot the three well. Still shooting 40% from beyond the arc, which they shot 40% in this game. They've got some dudes, man. It's a well-balanced roster, and you pick up a win like this. And this doesn't mean that every game is going to be clutched out and great. By the way, they went from a projected to be 19-12 to 21-10 after that win against Duke. KenPom still thinks Kentucky's going to lose to Clemson later on, which is the next big-time game. They still think they're going to lose to Gonzaga in December, which that's still an incredibly tough game. We shall see. But a huge win tonight. A huge win tonight. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This is just a very big win for Kentucky and the squad. Just a very big win. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Obviously, all you guys are celebrating as well. I'm very, very, very impressed. I'm impressed, man. If you have not subscribed, if you have not liked the video, please go ahead and do so if you'd be willing. Would love to have you here. We've got Lipscomb on Tuesday. We're going to be talking about what this means for the Cats, kind of how we feel about individual performances as we continue along. We've got more recruiting news later on this week. We've got a lot to talk about. Like the video, subscribe if you're new. If you're listening on podcast, please subscribe. If you've got any extra thoughts, at Locked On UK on Twitter is where you can find me, Twitter/X, at Locked On UK. That's going to do it for tonight's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at Lance._. You can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.